Good afternoon, everyone. It is your girl, Empress. I'm here today in my capacity as an attorney, and I'm going to discuss the Amber Guyger case today. As you guys know, the verdict came down today, and Ms. Guyger was found guilty of murdering Mr. Botham Jean. So I want to give you guys my perspective on the case because I am an attorney and I do live in Dallas, Texas. So I have firsthand observation of what the city is going through, how people are feeling, and things like that. So let's jump into it. So, brief recap of the situation. Amber Guyger was a Dallas police officer, and last year, September 2018, once she got off duty, she claims that she mistakenly went into an apartment that she thought was hers, and she believed that there was an intruder, and she shot and killed a man. That man, Botham Jean. That's her story. So this week the trial occurred, and today she was found guilty by a jury of murdering Mr. Botham Jean. Now, her story is that it was a mistake. So let's get into my perspective. Did she make a mistake or not? So my analysis is twofold. On one hand, yes, I think there was a mistake. And the mistake occurred in her actually going to the wrong apartment. Based off the evidence that was presented in the case, I believe 100% she made a mistake. She went to the wrong floor and she went to the wrong apartment. And I say this because the apartment that she went into, Mr. Jean's apartment, was exactly one floor above hers, and it was in the exact same location. So I think that's reasonable to believe that someone could make that mistake. Now, it was no mistake, however, when she pulled that trigger. So that's the difference. When she was walking to the apartment, she parked on the wrong level and she went to the wrong apartment, the exact same spot that her apartment would be in. That was a mistake. Also, another thing that I think supports that she mistakenly went to the wrong apartment is the fact that she had only been living there for about two months. So I think it's reasonable to believe in a big complex with a bunch of apartments with the same color doors and all that, and you only been living there for 2 months, it's definitely reasonable to go to the wrong floor, go to the wrong apartment, all of that. However, she definitely did not make a mistake in killing that man. I believe once she opened the door and saw him, she knew very well that that was not her apartment. It all came to her. But I think in that moment, she chose to shoot and kill him because of her status as a police officer and knowledge that police generally get away with those type of killings. I think she made a conscious decision in that moment when she saw Mr. Botham Jean. She realized, hey, this is not in my apartment, and she chose to kill him. That's what I believe happened. And I talked to a couple of my friends about this, other attorney friends. And, you have to really put yourself in the position of a person who mistakenly, goes into someone's apartment or makes any type of mistake. Think about how you react. Now, I've never personally went into the wrong apartment, but I have gone to the wrong car. I went to a car that looked exactly like mine, and I literally put on the handle and almost got in. When you make a mistake like that, how do you feel? How do you usually react? You react embarrassed. You're apologetic. You're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I thought this was my apartment. Please forgive me. That's how you react. All right? So as she's going into the apartment, and then she testified that she never fully went all the way in when the shooting occurred. So you open the door. He's sitting there on the couch eating ice cream. Okay? You immediately think, hey, it's an intruder in my place. Right? That's what she's saying. She thought it was an intruder. But in that moment, mentally, when you think there's an intruder, in that moment, she should have realized, hey, these paintings on the wall, these pictures, this is not my stuff. You know what I mean? The furniture, this is not my stuff, and been apologetic and embarrassed and been like, hey, I'm so sorry, this is not my place, right? And retreated. That's what normal people did. But I think in that moment, she made the decision to go ahead and shoot and kill that guy because she thought she could get away with it. That's what I believe. Now, some factors that influenced her mistake. I believe that her affair with her partner, who was a married man, definitely influenced the situation that she got herself into. The evidence showed during the trial that she was texting her partner immediately before she shot Mr. Jean, and pretty much all that day. They had been making explicit text messages to each other regarding sex and, all kind of other things. And so what I believe happened is, while she was, interacting with him and all that, that affected her mind. I know a lot of times as women, when we're dealing with men, we can get a little sidetracked. They can throw us off a little bit. And so I believe that when she was pulling up to her apartment, she was so sidetracked about him, because some of the text messages revealed, that I'm assuming they were supposed to meet up that night or something. She was thinking about him. Her mind wasn't in the present. And that's how she mistakenly went to the wrong floor and subsequently went to the wrong apartment. So, I bring that up to say that, we all make mistakes, but you have to be responsible for every decision you make in this life. And so her decision to mess with a married man ended up backfiring on her. It's no coincidence that hours leading up to, and in the very moment when you did the thing that would change your life forever, you were on the phone and texting a married man. That's not a coincidence, okay? So that's that. Now, as far as the actual trial and, things that led to her being convicted today of murder, we have to assess, the attorney's skills and, Mr. Jean's character and who he was as a person. So first, I'll say, Miss Guyger, her attorneys are very well respected here in Dallas. They are known to be some of the best criminal defense attorneys, in the city. So she definitely had great representation. But I think it came down to the jury simply did not resonate with her story, number one. She didn't seem credible. She did not seem believable. And I think that there's a number of things that play a factor into that. Number one, immediately the state's attorneys, the district attorneys, brought up the fact that she was dealing with a married man, her partner, right? She deleted text messages between them immediately after the shooting occurred. Now, right off the bat, when you start deleting messages and stuff like that, she also started deleting things off of her social media. That was all disclosed in the trial. That says I have something to hide when I start deleting things, right? And so the state made that very clear. And so I think that was a huge blow against Amber's credibility, number one. Number two, the partner who she was having an affair with, he was put on the stand. And what I observed about his presence was he was somewhat of a shady character. While he was on the stand, he batted his eyes a lot, uncontrollably. He did, things with his mouth and certain things like that. And he just had a presence about himself that was really like asshole-ish, or like, this is some bullshit. Amber shouldn't be here. Just very like, to me, kind of a demonic presence about him. And so I think that was another thing that was a bad blow against her possibly getting found not guilty. This is your partner. This is the guy, one, you're having an affair with. This is the guy that you were communicating with leading up to you shooting an innocent man. This is the guy that you immediately text after shooting the innocent man, telling him that you effed up. And so for him to get on the stand, his presence was important. He should have got up there and been like a complete saint or something, because one, you're already cheating on your wife. So now naturally people are going to kind of have a side eye at you. So you got to get up there and win people over somehow. And I think he did the exact opposite. He was very, you know, what am I doing here? I don't want to be here. You know, kind of a nasty attitude type of person. So that's the second thing that negatively impacted Amber's case. Also, I think the biggest thing is that when people think about the implications of her getting found guilty or not guilty, that scared people. And what I mean by that is this. When you think about, hey, if we let this woman off the hook and find her not guilty, that means from here on out, it sends the message to the public that you can just barge into someone's apartment, say that you thought it was your apartment and there was an intruder, and kill an innocent person. And I think a lot of people have a problem with that, you know? Jury members had a problem with that because that means no one's safe. You know, if you aren't safe in your home, in the sanctity of your own home, while you're doing nothing, sitting on the couch in pajamas, eating ice cream, and someone can just come into your apartment, shoot you in cold blood, and say, I thought it was my apartment. I thought he was an intruder. I mean, then no one's safe. No one's safe. Now, it doesn't matter your race, your gender, your economic status. None of that matters. No one's safe. And I think that point clearly registered with the jury. So they knew, hey, we got to find her guilty because this was sending the wrong message into society. So I think that's the third, and that's probably the biggest thing that played a factor in her being found guilty. Now, also, I think that Botham's, his character and his presence on this earth, who he was connected with, I think that also played a huge role in her being found guilty. Now, my friend does the PR for the civil attorneys on representing Mr. Botham's family, and she did the PR for the Botham Jean Foundation for their gala that they just had this past Sunday. And so I was in attendance at the gala. I got to go to the VIP reception and everything. And what I learned from that gala is that Botham was a highly connected individual. He was highly loved. And I mean, if you were going to have a victim to have in a murder case, he was the person to have as a prosecutor. He was pretty much an angel. Okay? And so at the gala, we had the CEO of PwC, which is where Botham worked, you know, come in and talk about Botham and how many people loved him at that company and how they implemented changes since his death, and just talk about personal experiences with Botham. That's huge. That's a CEO of a major company standing up for him, for Botham, the victim, right? We also had in attendance the president of Botham's University. Now, I forgot the name of the university, Hartford, or so, it was some type of university with an H. But the actual president came to the gala and spoke on Botham's behalf. That's powerful. I mean, many of us have been to college. We probably never even interacted with the president, let alone for the president to specifically know our name and remember specific interactions with us that were positive and that impacted them forever. The president got up on stage and spoke about Botham in such a high regard for him. He recounted specific instances where he interacted with Botham and how Botham influenced his campus in a positive way. That was powerful. Aside from that, you had foreign ambassadors. Okay? Foreign ambassadors come in on stage and speak on Botham's behalf of how such a good person he was, of all the charitable things he did in foreign countries for the less fortunate. That's powerful. Come on now. Many of us don't even know foreign ambassadors. But for a foreign ambassador, a president, a CEO, and so many other powerful people to know you by on first name basis and can recount the interactions they had with you and how you helped them and, you know, did all these wonderful things, that's powerful. So with that being said, I realized at the gala that, you know, many people are affected by the loss of this young man, and the attention that this case would be getting would be unlike any other case simply by the fact of the character of both of them and how well connected he was. So I think that's another thing that played a huge part in the defendant being guilty. Now, of course, you know, they say the jury shouldn't have any, you know, specific knowledge of the case when they, you know, become jury people for the case and all that. But people talk, and I think that the jury people probably did have some type of, you know, general knowledge about the case, especially when the prosecutor started bringing people on the stand to talk about both of them and things like that. The jury, you know, quickly understood who both of them was as a person, and that resonated with them, because it's like generally when people are murdered by the police, they immediately start painting a picture of the victim as a thug or somebody who was trying to attack them, and, you know, all of this negative stuff about the victim, right? And it works. People don't feel sorry for them, and, you know, generally officers are not held responsible for their actions. But in this case, they couldn't really do that with both of them, because he was an honorable man. He was an honorable man, highly respected, and the prosecution did a good job of demonstrating that to the jury. So all of those things together are my biggest perceptions of how Amber got found guilty. Okay? Now, outside of that, we have to think about the sentencing, because that has not happened yet. So this particular charge will hold between, I believe it's 5 and 100 years in jail. So it'll be interesting to see what the jury decides will be her punishment. So in the state of Texas, you're immediately sentenced right after, you know, the verdict comes out. So I think the verdict came out about 2 or 3 hours ago. So sometime this afternoon, the jury and the judge should start putting on the sentencing part of the punishment. And I'm thinking that the jury, because they deliberated so fast, it took them about 6 or 7 hours to deliberate on this case, which is very quick for, you know, such a serious crime. Murder, generally, you know, juries will be deliberating for days. So for them to, you know, quickly make a decision and say, no, she's guilty, they already knew. You know, it's something throughout the trial that, you know, made them feel like, no, she's guilty. We already know she's guilty. We're going to just call a spade and we're ready to go home, you know. So because of that, I think that they're probably going to sentence her pretty high. Pretty high. Because there's something about her that they did not like. And it could be a number of the other things that I already mentioned that played a factor in her being found guilty. But it's something that they didn't like. And based off of how quickly they deliberated and all that, yeah, I think they're going to slam her at least 20, 25, okay? But we'll see. So that's my perception of the Amber Guyger case. And, you know, I'm just sending love and light to the Botham Jean family. And I'm glad that they got justice. I hope that justice will continue to prevail in this case, because depending on the sentencing, the defendant will have opportunity to, well, regardless of the sentencing, she will have an opportunity to appeal the jury's verdict. And because she has such great attorneys, I'm pretty sure they already have some basis for appeals lined up. You know, I saw one of the issues that they presented before the court was that one of the state's attorneys had done an interview the day before the start of trial. And so I'm pretty sure that'll be one of the issues they raise on appeal. Because there was a gag order in the case, so no one involved in the case was supposed to do any interviews or talk about the case or anything like that. So I'm sure that'll be one of the issues for appeal. And probably many more because they have great defense attorneys. So I pray that on appeal, if the defense does decide to appeal, that they are not successful. And I pray that the Jean family, just gets an abundance of love and light. You never really recover from these type of things. You're always holding it in your heart. But to some degree, you have to be strong and just continue to live your life. And so I pray that for them. Love and light. And again, this is Empress. Give you my legal analysis of the case with Amber Guyger. And love and light to the Botham John family. Ashe. Until next time.